Parliament to provide a framework for the care and protection of child parents within the counties, to provide a framework through which an expectant girl child or a child parent may actualize their right to basic education and at the same time ensure the care of their children and for connected purposes.
Sergeant at arms, you can draw the bar and open the doors. Yes. Yeah. Honorable Senators, can resume your seats. I have communication from the chair. Honorable Senators, in the public gallery, we have 36 students from Gamina Girls High School in Kajiado County who are undertaking a one-day education tour in the Senate. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you, and I invite Senator Lelegwe, Senator Seki to receive the visitors today.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me take this opportunity to welcome a student from Camila High School in Kajiado Town. I'm sorry for staying for a long time. I believe that you've really enjoyed and you've learned quite a lot. We've been having quite a number of activities here in the Senate. And I want to tell you that you're most welcome. I want to welcome you once again. As your Senator, Senator Seki, I know as you go back with your teachers, you'll go and share the notes of what we've been getting from this Senate. And I believe that, God willing, we'll definitely meet outside and say a word. Otherwise, thank you very much, and teachers, thank you very much. Asanteni sana.
Honorable Senators, I have another communication to make on a visiting delegation from Samburu County. In the public gallery, we have a visiting delegation from Samburu County who are undertaking an education visit in the Senate. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit, and I thank you. I want to now ask Senator Lelegwe and Senator Ledama to each take a minute to welcome the delegation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I join you in welcoming actually the petitioners from Samburu to the Senate. Madam Speaker, these are not just the visitors to the Senate. These are the petitioners to the Senate on issues of insecurity in Samburu County. Madam Speaker, they are not just also the petitioners, as I've mentioned, but our visitors today are the victims of insecurity in Samburu County. Here, I thank the chair of the National Security, Foreign Relations, and Defense for giving them time, opportunity to articulate the issues of insecurity in Samburu County, the issues that have affected the Kenyans that live there, for the loss of property, the loss of livestock, the loss of the farming land, and so many injustices that are being done to these people. Madam Speaker, this is a timely time where these visitors have come to visit the Senate, because we have a motion that's still alive in the Senate, where we are discussing, that was brought by the chair of Defense, Security and Foreign Relations, to discuss issues of insecurity. And I urge all the senators to support the motion so that we contain the runaway insecurity in most parts of the country, especially in North Rift counties, including Samburu. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And now I can give Ledama, because you instructed both of us to welcome them. Thank you.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipa nafasi hii ili niweze kuwakaribisha wageni wetu ambao wamekuja katika bunge letu la taifa kuweza kuweka dua kwa kuhusu hali ambaye inayozorotesha maisha katika mipaka yetu Samburu, Turkana na West Pokot. Mheshimiwa Speaker na Baringo pia. Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni jambo la kusitisha sana katika century hii tukiona ya kwamba watu bado wanapigana, wanauana. Ni jambo ambalo linahuzunisha sana na ni kitu ambaye inatukera sana, na sisi wote kama viongozi lazima sote tusimame ili tuweze kuwasaidia wenzetu. Wamasai wetu ambao wanaishi Samburu wanaumia sana. Wanaumia kwa kila siku wanawazika watoto wao ambao walikuwa wanaendelea tu na kazi yao. Kenya hii tunaumia sana. Na mimi ningependa kuwaomba wenzetu wanakamati wa kamati ile ya usalama katika Kenya hii ama security committee, dua hii ambaye imeletwa na wenzetu kutoka Samburu lazima tuitilie manani, na lazima tuhakikishe ya kwamba wenzetu kule wanaishi kwa amani. Ni aibu sana, nimeona mama moja hapa na wazee ambaye wamejikokota kutoka Samburu kuja mpaka hapa kutulilia sisi. Hiyo inamaanisha ya kwamba sisi ni watu ambaye Kenya hii yote imetuweka amani. Na itakuwa ni vibaya sana, Bi Speaker, kama hawa wametoka Samburu wamekuja hapa alafu kililio chao kiendelee piangamia patupu. Ndio ipasa na wakaribisha, na ndio tuliwaambia wabaki hapa waone ya kwamba hii jambo ambalo zimewakera pia sisi imetukera, na tutasimama na hao na tutaendelea wakitembea hapa. Hii ni nyumba yao na kilio chao ni kilio chetu. Asante Bi Speaker.
Senator Ledama, thank you though you extended. I will give 1 minute each to Senator Chute and Senator Kinyua to welcome the delegation.
Asante sana, Madam Speaker. Wacha nichukue nafasi hii kukaribisha wageni wetu kutoka Samburu County. Vile unavyojua, Madam Speaker, nimetoka Marsabit County, mimi ni senator wa Marsabit County. County ya Samburu ni jirani yangu na tunapakana kwa barabara peke yake kwa mahali mingi. Madam Speaker, hao wageni wamekuja hapa leo, hawajakuja kutembelea Nairobi kuangalia museum ama national park. Wamekuja hapa wakileta kilio ya watu yao kutoka Samburu County. Madam Speaker, tangu Kenya ipate uhuru, hata kabla ya uhuru, sisi kwetu tunaitwa marginalized. Wakati Jomo Kenyatta ameingia tunaitwa marginalized. Wakati Moi ameingia, President Moi ameingia, tunaitwa marginalized. Wakati Uhuru Kenyatta ameingia tunaitwa marginalized. Hata sasa tunaitwa marginalized. Paka watu wetu, juzi kuna MCA ameuawa. Na kama viongozi kama hawa wanauawa, kitu gani itafanya hata minister nchi asiuawe? Ningependa sana Madam Speaker, ile motion iko mbele yetu inaongea juu ya banditry. Banditry ni terrorism. Terrorism, watu wanachukua kama terrorism ni kitu muhimu sana. Banditry pia ni terrorism.
You need to wind up, your 1 minute is over.
Asante sana Madam Speaker. Hiyo motion tuhakikishe, ningeomba wenzangu tupitishe iwe ikitusaidia. Asante sana Madam Speaker.
Senator Kinyua, 1 minute only.
Asante Bi Speaker kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza kabisa nataka kupongeza Senator wa Samburu kwa jukumu aliyochukua nzuri kabisa na kufuatilia mambo ya usalama katika sehemu ya Samburu. Usalama umekosekana si Samburu peke yake. Laikipia tunaishi kwa hali ya sintofahamu, ukitembea paka Baringo. Kwa hivyo nataka kushukuru. Na hasa seneta wa kutoka Nandi kwa sababu iko mswada ameleta. Mswada ya kusema ya kwamba wizi wa mifugo wa kimabavu na wizi kama huo ni terrorist, Speaker. Na kwa hivyo Speaker, kazi kuu ya serikali Speaker ni kulinda maisha na mali ya wananchi. Nataka kusema ya kwamba ninakemea vitendo ambavyo vinafanywa na hawa wahalifu Speaker, na serikali majukumu yake inapaswa wachukuliwe hawa magaidi, hawa wakora Speaker, na kwa sababu tayari sisi tumejitolea kama bunge, misaada ambayo tunapitisha Speaker, na hela ambazo serikali inatoza ushuru, tunapaswa kutununiwa vifaa dhabiti ya kupambana na hawa magaidi, hawa wakora Speaker. Naunga mkono, nasema asante.
Thank you, Senator Kenywa. Now, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 45-2, I will reorganize the order paper, and instead of order number 12, we will be going to order number 13. And before we do that, I will ask the chair of Roads, Transport and Housing Committee to table the report. Senator Karungo Thangwa, table the report.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 7th March 2024. Report on the Study Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing on the consideration of the Affordable Housing Bill 2023, National Assembly Bill number 75 of 2023. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Next order.
Order number 13, the Affordable Housing Bill, National Assembly Bills number 75 of 2023, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Affordable Housing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 75 of 2023, be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, as Leader of Majority, I've had opportunity to lead the session in moving many government bills. But this is one that sits in a pedestal of great pride doing this great task, Madam Speaker, this afternoon, because if there is a single government policy in the present administration's manifesto, otherwise known as a plan, that I strongly believe in and know that has the power to transform our country from a country that is dogged with poverty, sickness, and all the challenges that you can imagine, think of a poor African economy, and catapult us, Madam Speaker, into a middle-income status, courtesy of good planning, Madam Speaker, visionary leadership, and the determination to do the right thing, then it is this affordable housing program, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, many times when members of this House travel to various parts of the world, they are impressed by how cities are properly planned. They are impressed by how nations confront their challenges, Madam Speaker, and set their countries on a path of prosperity by making bold decisions. The affordable housing program, Madam Speaker, is a bold program. Madam Speaker, the reason we are here today is that you are aware that in November of 2023, the High Court ruled, Madam Speaker, that the affordable housing levy lacked a legal framework for implementation of the affordable housing program, and therefore the court ruled further as well that in the context in which the levy had been designed, it was discriminatory. Discriminatory, Madam Speaker, because the levy is only charged upon those that are salaried employees. The rest of the citizens don't pay of it. And it has been debatable, Madam Speaker, why you are levying only salaried Kenyans. And therefore, there was an argument, which I don't agree with, Madam Speaker, but because we are a constitutional democracy, I respect the verdict of the court, though I greatly disagree with it in their view and the direction that we should charge this levy to all Kenyans, because by and large, that is what the courts are telling us. That is what LSK, for example, as an institution, are telling us as Parliament to do, that every Kenyan, including the ordinary citizens, those that they sometimes purport to represent in petitions, must pay this particular levy, Madam Speaker. It was the general thinking of many of us that given the fact that we live in almost a quasi-socialist state, Madam Speaker, any adult who lives in this country and has gone through public education has been educated through the taxes of other Kenyans. All of us in this House, Madam Speaker, including the members of staff. The reason why we have formal education is because those that in the 70s, in the 80s, and in the 90s when we went to school, there were people who were working, whose salaries were deducted, and that is what paid for our education. And the thinking then at that particular time was that to move forward this particular nation and to move citizens who don't live in decent households. Madam Speaker, further on while moving this bill, I'd wish to challenge people to read, because I've seen some fools out there tell us, who told you that Kenyans don't have houses? The Constitution does not just talk about houses. It talks about decent houses with access to good sanitation. And Article 43, economic and social rights in this country, Madam Speaker. Therefore, it was a thinking at that particular time that those of us that are well-to-do, that have a salary, that we form a very small portion of our country, Madam Speaker, would do well to support this program so that it benefits the entire country. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, LSK and the courts and all those that petition have asked that this be levied on all Kenyans, including those that don't have a salary. Since, like I have said, we are a constitutional democracy, we are left with very little to do other than to pass the bill as now proposed, so that for anybody to benefit under this program, be it under affordable or social housing, because there are two parts of this program, Madam Speaker, then they must at least pay something. It's not a very bad thing, Madam Speaker, because it's a show of commitment also on our citizens. Of course, Madam Speaker, the second thing is that it provides a legal framework establishing the board and the institution that will run this particular fund, Madam Speaker. I want to congratulate the Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing for working expeditiously over the last few days in ensuring that they give us this program. They ensure that they guide the House. I have seen they have tabled their report, Madam Speaker. They have listened to Kenyans. I followed last week when presenters came before them, including Juakali workers, ordinary citizens who are going to benefit out of this program, young people. In fact, Madam Speaker, affordable housing program is the wrong title for this program. This should be the jobs program for ordinary citizens, Madam Speaker, because millions of young people are going to be employed, from plumbers to masons, electricians, architects, carpenters, name it all, Madam Speaker, caretakers, many jobs that you can imagine that will arise out of the successful implementation of this program. The UN Habitat, Madam Speaker, has told us that by 2063, more than 50% of the world will be living in urban areas. When you fail to plan, Madam Speaker, you are planning actually to fail. If as a country we don't make a decision on what we are going to do with our urban population that is spiraling and growing, Madam Speaker, then in another 10, 20 years, we shall have slums in every part of this country. There is no county that you can think of that doesn't have a slum today because of lack of planning, because there is a need for housing within urban centers, Madam Speaker, yet there is no supply. The market has failed to supply good, decent, affordable houses, Madam Speaker. People don't live in the informal settlements in this city, for example, the Mukurus and the Kiberas, for lack of it. They would wish to live in a house with a good toilet, with a warm shower, Madam Speaker, but those houses are not affordable. They are not available. And that's why this program, like I've said, is revolutionary, can only be implemented by a bold leader. And I want to congratulate His Excellency the President. Because of the bold decision, he has spoken about this to the charging of many, including even some of his supporters, Madam Speaker, especially the salaried lot, who don't want to pay a price of patriotism. Yet, like I have observed earlier, anybody in this country who is an adult over the age of 18 and has gone through public education, Madam Speaker, needs to know that the most subsidized program in this country is our education program, right from 1963, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I went through Moi University, for example, for 4 years. The only fee that I paid is a total of 80,000 to get a university degree, 20,000 each financial year. It's because there were other Kenyans who were working and they were paying for my university education. How can I today look at them and claim, Madam Speaker, that I cannot part with 5,000 so that other citizens can live in decent households? There is no program under this administration that I believe better than this affordable housing program, Madam Speaker. Therefore, I want to urge colleagues, I don't intend to be extremely long on it because I know many colleagues want to speak on this particular program, Madam Speaker, and go into the details. But I urge you to support this program. It is properly defined. Now we have set the legal framework. We have set up the body that will guide the use of these funds together with the CEO and how to look into the issues of corporate governance of this fund, Madam Speaker. There is now no excuse why this program cannot run. Therefore, Madam Speaker, in the interest of time and to provide opportunity for many of our colleagues who want to speak into this program, I beg to move and request the Senator for Kiambu, Chairperson of Roads, Transport and Housing Committee, to second me. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Majority Leader. Senator Thangwa.
Madam Speaker, I stand to second for the Affordable Housing Bill to be read a second time. Madam Speaker, I am the chairperson of the Roads, Transportation and Housing Committee, Madam Speaker, and we took time together with the members of the committee and scrutinized this bill. I would want you to remember, Madam Speaker, that this bill was brought to the Senate after the passage at the National Assembly, Madam Speaker. But before I comment on what we did to this bill and what I'm urging the members of this House to support, Kenyans 14 years ago bestowed upon themselves the right to housing. Madam Speaker, you can read that in Article 43(1)(b) of the Constitution that says that it is a right for everybody to have a decent housing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so that I can paint a clear picture, it had been in the news and all over that we have seen honorable members, not only from this House, trying to build decent houses to their constituents. Madam Speaker, without mentioning many names, I know we have seen it like Honorable Otiende Amolo, Honorable Didmas Barasa, even the AC, Senator Tom Ojienda. They have been seen online building some houses. But of course, those houses are not as decent as it should be if we were to go with the Article 43(1)(b) of the Constitution. That's why this bill, Madam Speaker, is bringing decency to the people, dignity to the people of Kenya, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill, when it came to the Senate, when it came to the committee, we are even we redesigned so many things. We redesigned or amended, proposed so many amendments, Madam Speaker, because we saw from the bill that was really debated at the National Assembly, it was not catering for the rural areas, Madam Speaker. And that's why we are bringing amendment that we will be discussing going forward, Madam Speaker, that this bill will be able to build a decent house for somebody in the village who has land and all they want is a decent house, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are even suggesting to rename the bill Rural and Urban Affordable Housing Bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill that is pulling resources together by forming this fund, Madam Speaker, and the fund is supposed to have these monies so that we can build decent houses, as I'm saying, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when we have these monies in one pool, we have, the bill is suggesting that every county will benefit And Madam Speaker, because Article 96 of the Constitution says that we take care of the interests of the counties, we took that upon ourselves as a committee to even introduce something that was not there in the first place. That is county committees or county boards, so that they can also have a say within this affordable housing fund, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you will see going forward that every county will be having such a committee that will work closely with the national fund, Madam Speaker. As if that is not enough, Madam Speaker, we realize that this fund is collecting money from Kenyans, and these monies must also be channeled back to the counties. And we suggested, which we will be able to tell the House in the previous amendments, that some monies from this fund will have to go to the counties directly, so that every county can benefit from this fund, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we received over 29 memorandums when we told Kenyans to bring their opinions, to bring their suggestions. We received 29 memoranda. We even had to invite some stakeholders to come and appear before our committee. One of them was the Department of Housing, led by CS herself, Alice Wahome, together with the PS Hinga. We even had the Association of Architects, Madam Speaker, and they gave their views. We even had Juakali Association, Madam Speaker, and all of them, together with others, they were in support that Kenyans require and need decent housing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we looked at all those inputs that these people brought to us. Some of them we considered them. Some of them were already in the bill, Madam Speaker. And I want this House to understand that this bill, and that's why, Madam Speaker, we should always say every bill concerning counties must come to the Senate. When we looked at it, Madam Speaker, and I want to reiterate that point, and I want to repeat that point, that the fund itself somehow was working in isolation. But we had to loop in counties through the county boards, where the governors will have a say in those committees, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me explain it further. If there's a hustler somewhere, a border rider, maybe in a village where I was born, a village called Mitahato, and that person does not need a house in the urban area. They don't want to move to Nairobi. They don't want to move to Mombasa. Neither do they want to move to Kiambu town. They want to live in their area where they do their business. And maybe they have a piece of land. Maybe it's an inheritance from their fathers. Maybe they bought a piece of land. All they require is a decent house. But since they don't have money, Madam Speaker, why can't the government provide that housing for such a hustler? Madam Speaker, we have put that in this bill, that such a hustler will go to the mortgage schemes, the mortgage scheme that has been introduced by this bill, and through their voluntary saving, if they have saved, plus that title of that land they want to put up a house, they can get an affordable mortgage from the government, so that they can build such a beautiful house according to their dreams, Madam Speaker, and where they belong and in the village. And how do we protect such funds from misuse, Madam Speaker? We use their savings as collateral, and we also use their land titles as collateral, Madam Speaker. With that, this bill has taken care of every Kenyan. Before, what was in the air, Madam Speaker, it seems like we were only building houses for the urban areas, the skyscrapers, and all that, Madam Speaker. But through the amendments of this that will be brought by this committee, Madam Speaker, we will be building a house for everyone. Without taking much time, Madam Speaker, I would urge the members of this House to support this bill, because before we were saying that we were not involved. Now we are. We were saying the counties have not been looked into. We have factored that, Madam Speaker, by making those boards and also sending the funds, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, This bill is what every Kenyan has been looking for. This bill is what even the courts said we should have, Madam Speaker. And by putting these structures together, we will be able to have or make this country a country whereby, Madam Speaker, everybody will have a decent house, everybody will have a decent home, and everybody will be able to have a house of their choice or a house of their liking, depending on the location and place where they come from. Madam Speaker, so that I can give others time, I second that this bill is read for a second time. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I now propose that the Affordable Housing Bill, National Assembly Bills number 75 of 2023, be now read a second time. Senator Tabitha, what's your problem? You have a point of order. You should state it expressly that you have a point of order. What's your point of order? Senator, use the next mic. Okay.
Okay. Madam Speaker, I raise pursuant to Standing Order 111 to move that debate on the Affordable Housing Bill, National Assembly Bills number 75 of 2023, be limited to a maximum of 4 minutes per senator. I thank you.
The seconder?
I ask Mundigi to second the motion.
He is Senator Mudigi.
Senator Mudigi, Embu County, I am begged to second.
Honorable Senators, there is a motion in the House by Senator Tabitha, and I want to propose the question, but we can do it by concurrence, and I want to propose that the debate be limited to 4 minutes. Do we have concurrence or we need to debate this? I put the question that this debate be limited to 4 minutes. By concurrence, every senator will take 4 minutes. Tom Ojenda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the Affordable Housing Bill. Madam Speaker, let me move to the... Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me a chance to contribute to the housing bill. Madam Speaker, the architecture of the Affordable Housing Bill as set out is founded under Article 43(1) of the Constitution as set out, and it aims to ensure that every Kenyan who makes a contribution to the fund as set out at 1.5% of the gross salary is eligible to apply for a house. Madam Speaker, the Leader of Majority has addressed the House today, and of importance, Madam Speaker, is the need for Kenyans not just to look at the housing bill as crafted, but to look at the entire project that goes into housing as a project. The entire framework that goes into housing, Madam Speaker, aims and will benefit Kenyans of all walks of life. The housing projects as conceived by the fund, Madam Speaker, will benefit and will be spread in every county of the 47 counties in this country. And we are aware, Madam Speaker, that even as this debate goes on after court proceedings on the initial act as set out, Madam Speaker, we know that there are active housing projects in counties like Homa Bay, in counties like Nyandarua, and those are already complete. And Madam Speaker, Kenyans should know that there are sectors, the support sectors in this country, including the Juakali sector, crafters and metal workers who have immensely benefited with the housing bill. Madam Speaker, on the question of eligibility, the framework of the affordable housing bill has set out eligibility at a level that will ensure that it is open for every Kenyan to contribute to the fund and therefore be eligible to secure, to be allocated a house as long as they make a contribution. I think this is an amendment that is important, Madam Speaker, because it then opens up the fund to other people who have the opportunity or the ability to contribute. On the question as to why, and I think, Madam Speaker, this is a sticky question, whether only employees should contribute, Madam Speaker, I think Kenyans should look at the framework of law as being constitutionally embedded and underpinned. The intention, Madam Speaker, is to move this country to a second-level economy, to ensure that we have affordable houses that citizens of this country can buy, and, Madam Speaker, including those who are previously would not have been able to purchase houses. Madam Speaker, I support this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Chute.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Let me take this opportunity also to contribute to this amendment bill, Affordable Housing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 75 of 2023. Madam Speaker, as a keen member of this committee and also a strong supporter now for this bill, I want to say we had a team from Buxton Estate, former tenants of Buxton Estate, some time back before our committee. They brought a petition to this house. And the major problem they brought before the committee was, number one, an affordability of those houses. Number two, an affordability of the finances. Madam Speaker, today I'm proud to say and also thank my committee members that we've amended a lot of things based on the experience we've had through what Buxton Estate tenants brought before us. Madam Speaker, with your kind indulgence, sometimes last year, when we had this petition, the committee recommended that the former tenants should be housed, should be given those houses. There are almost, I think, 184 tenants which were not, up to today, not given those houses. Madam Speaker, the residents of Buxton Estate had found themselves in a situation where they had been evicted out of the homes. They had been long time residents of those homes. Madam Speaker, the houses that we are living in were demolished and replaced by beautiful apartments. And the contract between the developers and the county government was not sufficient enough to accommodate those former tenants. Madam Speaker, this bill is part of an effort to create a legal framework for affordable housing units. One of the strongest complaints that committees was confronted with is the Buxton petition. Madam Speaker, the clause 2 and clause 47 have gone ahead to both define an affordable housing unit and furthermore to compel the cabinet secretary responsible for housing to define the parameters of an affordable housing. Madam Speaker, when the committee faced this Buxton petition, the biggest problem we had, Madam Speaker, was how to pass this bill so that they can be accommodated.
Senator Chute, time up for you.
Madam Speaker, just give me 1 minute.
Time up, Senator. Your seat, Senator Olekina Ledama.
Let me start by saying that I oppose this bill. I oppose this bill because this bill is unconstitutional. This bill, it doesn't matter how you look at it, it doesn't matter how anyone tries to pamper it, this is a merely clawing back on devolution. Madam Speaker, if you look at the Constitution of Kenya, housing is a devolved function. You know, one of our biggest problems in this country is that we want to be able to live in space. It's a beautiful place there, but I want to beg all of you to try and come back to reality that we are not yet there. Madam Speaker, housing being pushed by the national government is a failure. In fact, historically in this country, if you go to the posh neighborhoods now, Lavington, Kileleshwa, you go to Makadara, you go to Loresho, those were all government housing. And they were all intended to be able to better the poor. But what has happened? It is now the rich and famous who live there. Madam Speaker, I want to disabuse this belief that Kenyans will be able to get good houses. In fact, all of you who are seated here have not gotten your houses from affordable housing. What Kenyans want, Madam Speaker, is an enabling environment. Kenyans want, they desire free financing to be able to build their homes, Madam Speaker. Kenyans desire affordable materials for them to be able to build their housing. But what we are doing, Madam Speaker, is that we are just busy lining people's pockets. The biggest problem we have in this country, Madam Speaker, and this is why I oppose this bill, is that everything being done, even this bill right now being passed here, it is purely for commercial purposes. There are people who already have their contracts in their pockets, knowing they will build estates, affordable houses estate. It's ridiculous, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what is important, and I think it is important for us to really be alive to the fact, the 4 minutes is really a way of even curtailing debate. I can say that because it is important for Kenyans to know. Even the 3% which is being proposed to be deducted from salaries, there is also another penalty of another 3% if you don't submit that money within 30 days. Madam Speaker, this bill, I wanted to say so much, but I can see the light is already on, is that the government will never succeed. This government has to make up its mind. Is it a democratic state that creates an enabling environment for everyone to do their business, or is it a socialist state? Government cannot do everything for people. Government should just create a good environment and allow people to build their houses. County government should be allowed to build houses for their staff. Madam Speaker, we know Kenya is getting free money from Japan, where the interest rate is 0. Why not apply that interest rate, which is 0, and give it to Kenyans for them to be able to build their own houses? This is wrong, my colleagues.
Senator Ledama,
and I want to beseech you.
Time up. Time up. Honorable Senators, I have a communication from the chair to make on the proposed removal from the office by impeachment of Honorable Dr. Robert Monda, the Deputy Governor of Kisii County. Can you resume your seat, Honorable Senator? So we will interrupt that debate and resume after this communication. Honorable Senators, as you are aware, the majority leader moved the motion at order number 9 on today's order paper for the establishment of a special committee to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Dr. Robert Monda, the Deputy Governor of Kisii County. The motion was not seconded and therefore withdrawn pursuant to Standing Order 71, which states the question on any motion shall not be proposed unless it shall have been seconded, and any motion that is not seconded shall be deemed to have been withdrawn and shall not be moved again in the same session unless with the permission of the Speaker.